My name is Bethany Blevins, and this is my Research for Interventions project. My student Corey is a very sweet and outgoing 4th grade student. He really loves racing on his dirt bike and driving his remote control car. His favorite books include Pokemon and Harry Potter, especially the chapters where there are dragons involved. He really enjoys science and social studies because he is a big history buff and he's not a huge math fan. He loves animals and has cows, horses, chickens, goats, turtles, horses, and a deaf dog named Show and Tell that he was very proud to tell me about. He loves the color blue, and his favorite show is Power Rangers. He's also very close with his family and especially loves spending time with his grandma and his younger brother. He is on a 1st grade reading level in the frustration stage. He has trouble decoding, which in turn affects his fluency. However, he has strong comprehension skills and does not get frustrated easily. I've given my students many assessments to try to dive deeper into his problem areas and figure out what I would like to focus in on. Assessment that I did was an interest inventory. An interest inventory is an assessment given where the student is asked many questions about themselves so that the teacher is able to get to know the student and find the best way to appeal the instruction and interventions to their interest. I asked Corey questions like, do you like going to the library? He said he does like going to the library, but he would rather spend time playing outside or climbing trees. When he does go to the library, he likes to pick action-packed books like Harry Potter or books with pop-ups or the type of book that has drawing or tracing incorporated into it. When I asked him what his favorite memory was, he said it was any memory that involved his spending time with his family or his parents and brother. And then I asked him what he would do if he was given $100, and he said that he would try to buy his mom a yacht, but it probably cost more than $100, so he would just settle on buying his parents a present and his younger brother a present. I found out that he's extremely sweet and caring, and that is definitely showcased in his attitude in his class. He is very motivated to stay on topic during class and is always trying his very best. He seems to enjoy reading, so I also think that will make completing my different assessments successful. He likes to learn about history, so I could try to incorporate that into my interventions for him to grab his attention, especially action-packed historical events. The second assessment that I did was a qualitative reading inventory word list. This is a list of words that students read out, and it goes by increasing difficulty. This list indicates which words are automatically identified and which ones were identified after decoding. It shows me the level of reading that my student is in. Corey correctly identified 10 out of the 20 words, giving him a score of 50%. He didn't automatically identify any of the words he looked at. He had to decode and sound out all of them. This puts him in the frustration stage for a 2nd grade word list. This definitely helps me because it shows me that he has trouble automatically identifying words. It takes him at least 5 seconds of looking at a word and decoding it for him to figure out what it is. He has to repeat himself with beginning words frequently. This tells me that decoding is an issue that is very much a problem for him. The next assessment that I did was the Words Their Way spelling inventory. This is a list of 25 words ordered by difficulty. I read the word out loud for the student, read the word in an example sentence given by the book, and then read the word again. The student then writes down the spelling of the word. This word list is an assessment used to determine what spelling stage a student is in. The spelling test was very informative for me. We were able to get through 16 of the 25 words due to the frustration of Corey. He's in the middle to late alphabetic name stage. I was able to determine this by breaking down what he missed within each word. He got all of his consonants correct, as well as all of his short vowels and blends. However, he only missed SH digraphs and had extreme difficulty with common long vowels such as OA, AI, AE, and IGH. He also missed other vowels frequently. Overall, he only got 5 out of the 16 words correct. He is in the letter name alphabetic stage in the middle to late section. This means that students in this section can correctly spell initial and final consonants, and they have some knowledge of blends and digraphs. They can also read aloud slowly in a word-by-word manner. This shows me that Corey has a lot of problems decoding words, especially with words that include long vowels and the SH digraph. Because he only got 1 out of the 5 common long vowels correct, this may be something that I need to focus in on. The next assessment that I did was a running record. A running record asks students some questions about the background information that relates to the topic of the story, and then the student reads the designated story out loud. Following that, the student will retell the story and then answer comprehension questions. This tells me a lot of information about the student. It tells me the total number of miscues, or the total accuracy that the student had, as well as the total amount of meaning change miscues that occurred. It also tells us the words correct per minute. Because the first running record that we gave was untimed, I could not calculate my words correct per minute or the words per minute. It also provides information on how much background knowledge the student has about the topic that the reading is on, and this may mean that they will have better results on a story they are interested in or familiar with. It also shows me how much the student comprehended about the story through the retelling and the comprehension questions. When asking Corey the background questions about the story The Bear and the Rabbit, which is a first grade level story, he scored a 3 on all 3 of the concept questions, which is the highest score that he could get, which equals a 100%. During the story, he made a total of 32 miscues out of the 181 possible words. A majority of the miscues didn't change the meaning of the story because it was simply him saying a word incorrectly but then going back and self-correcting. He would also repeat sentences a lot and not realize what he was doing. When retelling me the story, he went into great detail of the events and did a great job retelling. When answering the comprehension questions, he got all of them correct, which puts him in the independent stage. This shows me that Corey doesn't have a problem with comprehension. However, he does seem to have a problem with decoding words. He seems to rely a lot on the context clues because he often goes back and corrects himself once he figures out what the sentence is trying to say. The next week, I started with an oral comprehension test. This is a test where a passage is read by the teacher and the student retells the passage immediately afterward. This tells me if the student is truly struggling with comprehension without throwing their reading skills into the mix. It tells me if they can remember important details as well as the main ideas for the stories. Corey did really well on the retelling of the story. He was able to recall all of the main events and also did very well on specific details. He had some background knowledge on the topic, which was dolphins, so I think that helped him. I did this test to make sure that comprehension wasn't a problem, and this proved to me that he doesn't have a comprehension problem. In fact, he does really well at remembering smaller details and main ideas. After talking to my cooperating teacher, she confirmed that she has noticed this as well. He relies a lot on the context, but is able to frequently comprehend what is happening in the text. Following the oral comprehension test, I also gave him a second running record. I decided to do a second running record because I wanted to give my student a different passage at a second grade level as opposed to the first grade level to see if I still had strong results. This passage was very difficult for my student. He did have a strong grasp of the concept questions. He was able to answer all of the concept questions at a level 3, which is good. That is the highest level that he could have gotten. He read at 29 words per minute and got 22 words correct per minute. It took him 10 minutes and 39 seconds to read the entire passage, which had 305 words in it. He did a lot of self-correcting, meaning he would read something incorrectly and then go back and read it again, because using the context, he realized that it was incorrect. This passage had more meaning-changing miscues than the first grade passage. Because of this, his comprehension was a little bit weaker, but overall still strong. His retell was lacking in main concepts overall, but he was able to tell me specific details, which was interesting. He only hit on 3 out of the 18 main events listed in the QRI. When I asked him the comprehension questions, he got 5 out of the 8 questions correct. He got 2 implicit questions correct and 3 explicit, meaning he was in the frustration stage overall. This record is very helpful for me because it really confirmed for me that decoding was the problem. It took him an extremely long amount of time to read this passage because he didn't automatically recognize almost any of the words. He had to work hard at decoding each word. Because it took him so long, he ended up hurting his overall fluency and comprehension. This shows me that I really need to focus in on how I could work on decoding with him in order to strengthen his fluency and comprehension. I am focusing in on decoding specifically because I feel that it is constantly impeding on Corey's ability to read. He's in the frustration level of a first grade student, even though he's in 4th grade. He takes more than 10 minutes to read a passage with 305 words, which translates to around 29 words a minute. I would like to work on decoding because I believe that if he can gain a better understanding of how to decode words, it will positively impact his fluency and comprehension greatly. His ability to decode words is affecting many aspects of his reading skills, including language acquisition, cognitive acquisition, and reading acquisition. Language skill acquisition is defined as how students have the ability to perceive and comprehend language and gain the ability to be aware of language and comprehend it. There are 5 stages of language acquisition: pre-production, early production, speech emergent, early fluency, intermediate fluency, and advanced fluency. I believe that my case study student is in the beginning fluency stage because he often has gaps in academic vocabulary, but with minimal issues in social vocabulary and conversation. Decoding can definitely impede the skill because if the student can't read or understand the word, they won't be able to comprehend the meaning, which then impedes on their fluency. Cognitive skill acquisition is defined as acquiring the ability to solve problems in intellectual tasks where success is determined more by subject's knowledge than by their physical competence. Decoding impedes this because the student doesn't have prior knowledge that comes from being able to recognize words easily. Students that struggle with decoding a majority of the words that they read can struggle with cognitive acquisition. Reading skill acquisition is the process of learning how to read. There are 4 different stages within reading acquisition. These are emergent, early, proficient, and reader. There are 3 emergent literacy skills that can predict reading acquisition, including phonological awareness to pick out the sounds inside words, print recognition to match up symbols to sounds, and oral language to listen and learn the language. Decoding impedes the ability to match up symbols to sounds, especially for my case study student. He has a very hard time recognizing the relationships between the letters and the sounds that they are supposed to make. This means that he cannot fluently read most texts because of the speed of his decoding. That is also impacting his working memory because he isn't automatically recognizing words. Interventions. The first intervention that I did was decoding nonsense words. A nonsense word list is a list of 10 words in each category. CVC words, CCVC and CVCC words, R-controlled words, CVCE words, vowel teams, closed syllables, and open syllables. Students go through and read each word and they mark it correct or incorrect and write how they said it. It tells me which kinds of words that he is struggling with the most. Corey did really well on CVC words, CCVC, and CVCC words, and closed syllables. The kinds of words he missed the most were the CVCE, or silent E words, and vowel teams. My students seemed to enjoy doing nonsense words more because it didn't seem to be like there was a wrong answer. He didn't seem discouraged at all at the end. However, he didn't seem to catch on to the fact that these words might have had a common rule. I also learned that I should focus in on CVCE words and vowel teams. Within my research, I learned a lot about decoding and approaches for intervention. I learned that decoding nonsense words, or pseudo words, can isolate the problems in children's reading. I also learned that segmenting the words can help readers recode the word in a method that works for them. The second intervention was CVCE word work. CVCE words can also be referred to as silent E words. The first thing that I did with my student was to model how adding a silent E to a word changes the vowel sound to becoming a long vowel. We worked on some sample words on whiteboards together and then moved into the activity. We went through flashcards with sentences containing silent E words playing the game Kaboom. This means that he was trying to pick up cards and read them correctly, and if he read it correctly, he could keep the card. He had to collect 15 without picking up a Kaboom card, which would make him start over. He did really well with this. After this, we read a page out of the Geronimo Stilton book to try and put the words into context. This intervention shows me how well he does with the silent E words that are not nonsense words, and if this is something that I specifically need to be working on. He did really well with this intervention. When we were modeling, he was able to recognize immediately that adding an E word makes the vowel say its name. When we played Kaboom, he didn't have any problems with the CVCE words. He got all of them correct. Even when we went to apply it to real passages and read a chapter book, he didn't have many problems with the word in context. This tells me that I may have gone too deep into analyzing the nonsense words. Because they are made-up words, he may not have recognized that there was a certain rule for each type of word that he was looking at, like the silent E words. When we went in and worked on them isolated, he did a much better job. This tells me that I might not need to focus only on CVCE words. I might need to focus more on long vowels and mix in those silent E words with them. Because looking back at some of my assessments, I noticed that he did need to focus on both long vowels and silent E words, and I definitely can combine those. I have learned a lot about Corey. I have learned that he is a very motivated student and that he's sensitive to critique from his classmates and teachers. I have also learned about many different types of assessments and interventions that can be used in the classroom. I have learned how to do word list assessments and spelling inventories. I learned how to do running records as well as how to calculate words per minute and words correct per minute. One of the most important things that I learned was how to correctly assess what the problems are that my case study student is having and how to go about implementing interventions. Doing my annotated bibliography provided me with lots of resources and potential interventions, such as using rhyme to expand vocabulary knowledge or the spelling in parts intervention. Moving forward with my student, I will start focusing in on long vowels, but make sure to mix in those silent E words. I will continue to model for my student, and I would like to try using the spelling in parts intervention, as well as closed sentence reading for decoding and comprehension. This will help me for future students because I now know what I should be looking for. I know that I should start out with an interest inventory and work off of my students' interests. I think I will be more aware of what stages my students are in and how I will need to move forward in assessing them.